Hey everyone, my name is Rebecca and I welcome you to my channel. I'm really excited. This is a small introduction video as well as just a little bit of content that I'm going to be delivering here to you guys. And I wanted to create this channel. Well, first of all, let me tell you what I do. I'm a fashion consultant and I work specifically with brands that want to create a made in Italy product, putting them in contact with manufacturers and suppliers here in Italy. I'm based in Milan and I've had more than 12 years of experience in the fashion industry here. So welcome to my channel. And this video, I wanted to keep it short and to kind of ease into what I want to be posting in the next days. I created this channel because I wanted to kind of show a little bit more of a personal side to my life, to what I do. Obviously bringing a lot of knowledge with my past experience, with what I do, and yeah, just showing a little bit of a 360 degrees of what my life will be like, and just bring a bit of content in terms of the fashion world, in terms of tips and tricks that I can give you, and a little bit of a lifestyle edge to it as well. So you'll be seeing a lot of outfits and behind the scenes and a day in a life and things like that. So just to give you an introduction of what I want to deliver here. And today I wanted to talk about, I guess I'm jumping head into, a couple of questions that I get asked the most. And this is stuff that family, friends, people that get to know me, they have asked me quite a few times. So I just wanted to start, with the most obvious thing, which is a couple of tips and things to keep in mind when you are starting either your brand or launching a collection for the first time, or whether you're maybe a fashion student and want to start working on your own stuff, whether you want to adventure yourself in the made in Italy world and start your first production here. So I just wanted to talk to you about a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. I wrote down 6 things that are really, really, really important. Now, of course, these are the most obvious things and the things that I guess that someone who's never done it before wouldn't maybe think of a couple and not really give the importance to other stuff in terms of items of this list. But I really have found that those are the basics. This is the basic stuff that you need to know when you're starting, right? So however that might look like, whether you're doing your first collection ever, whether you are looking to launch your brand, whether you have done a couple of collections and now want to do something made in Italy for the first time. So I just want to talk about a couple of topics that you should keep in mind. Number 1, keep it small. So a lot of times when I start with a client or when someone comes asking me some advice and says, hey, Rebecca, how can I start? I have in mind a full collection from 30 to 50 pieces, right? Which in the fashion world is not a lot, right? You can build collections with 100 pieces. So they're talking to me about the numbers, and the second they mention, a full-blown collection, I'm usually like, whoa, wait. Start small. So I know for designers that have done collections in the past that it's maybe a little bit more challenging to kind of, say, okay, I don't want to go full-blown, full collection out. Because it's something exciting working, with Italian manufacturers. So I understand that there is that feeling of it's all or nothing, but I really, really strongly advise to start small. And the reason behind that is because you're gonna be working with manufacturers for the first time. And whenever that is the case, whether it's a small manufacturer, a big one, a more artisanal style one, I think it's always wise, just in general, to test out the territory first, even if you are working with people and when you're working with people who have worked with them before, right? So I think it's just a matter of being smart about your choices, starting small and then work from there. So number 1, start small. Don't think, 30 pieces, 40 pieces. I'm talking about 10, 15, around that number. So I know many people freak out when I talk to them about these kind of numbers, but trust me, it's been the winning strategy. And yeah, just speaking from experience here. Second one, be ready to invest. Now, this is something that might sound so obvious, but again, I think what the goal here in this video is to talk about stuff that sounds obvious, but people don't really listen when you're advising them. And again, this is my job. People consult me on these things. So be ready to invest. Now, of course, it would be silly for me to talk about a specific number, because any investment can look so different based on what kind of brand you are, what kind of clothing items you're looking to manufacture. So it really depends. But it's not something that should, or I think even can be treated as a side hustle. It's something that, if you're willing to do, you have to be, willing to put your money where your mouth is, basically. And I'm saying this why? Because I feel like a lot of times people, and I'm not just talking about designers here, right? I'm talking about friends who came and talked to me about, that their dream has always been to start a fashion brand, and how could the first steps look like? So whenever that is the case, I sit down with them and I say, listen, I'm all for starting small, right? And I've started small, one step at a time. I don't think that mentality of, oh my God, it needs to be a huge project, helps with chasing after your dreams, because it discourages a lot, when you look at that giant of a project and you're like barely able to embrace it. However, I do think that you need to look at it from a very responsible point of view and say, okay, this is how much I'm able to invest into this, and this is how much margin I have, and that's what I'm going to work with. And if it's, I don't know, a specific amount, I'm going to be very honest with you and tell you that's not possible, or at least with these kind of qualities. Because there's a little triangle I don't know if you've heard of it before, but there is a little triangle, and you have to imagine on each little edge of this triangle there is a word. So you have on one of the edges, it's quality. The second edge, it's price or cost, and the third edge is time. And many times, most of the times, from experience talking all of the times, you will have to choose two of these edges, right? So you can have a project that, is delivered quickly, and you can have it cost not that much money, but you will 100% compromise the quality. And if you choose a product that is high quality and maybe, a lower price, you will compromise on the time. So, just a very easy way to, I think, visually keep that in mind. So be ready to invest. It's not something, a small project. And if, you want to start small, even 5 pieces, I know that sounds ridiculous, but starting with a small capsule collection and communicating and branding that in the right way can go so far, rather than breaking the bank, doing a huge collection and, not being able to deliver in terms of quality, in terms of the expectations of, yourself and your client, and having to stop midway. Again, talking from experience, this is all stuff that has happened. So be ready to invest and take it serious as a serious investment, right? It's an important thing, I guess, to say. There are also times where things will go wrong. Again, you're working on a product, you're creating samples. So many times I'm talking to people who want to get it right the first time. Now, obviously, manufacturers will treat your product as and try and make it as efficient as possible. But we're talking about samples, trial and error so many times, and they will put on the table their expertise. However, with the sampling process, there is possibility for trial and error, and that's not a negative thing. So don't think that if during the sampling process things go wrong and you will have to, for example, for one design, do a sample 2-3 times, that's a negative thing. That is part of the process. And many times people don't believe me, but it really is. In order for you to get a product perfect, you need to test it out. You need to sometimes remake it in order for it to be good, to be perfect, to fit your needs and requirements. So, and this obviously redoing something 1, 2, 3 times, it costs money. So be ready to have that money on the side and not invest everything that you have on the first sample. So just a little tip there, which can make a huge difference. Another thing is having the right connections. So working with people that you can trust. And this can go all the way from consultants, agents, to manufacturers, to people who recommend you. So I guess just testing out the territory and being present. I know this sometimes, especially when talking to business people, right? It's hard because time is a currency. I know that, and I know that it's sometimes the last thing that a busy CEO wants to trade, his time, her time. But invest yourself in the industry, in that area, with the people that could help you. This can go a long way. Having the right consultants, having the right manufacturers, knowing the right people that can then maybe hook you up with a contact or connect you with this specific manufacturer, or indicate you something, and for you to go after these leads is really, really important. Either you, of course, or a team that you dedicate, or a person that you dedicate to doing that works with you and for you. But yeah, just having the right connections is so important and can make or break the first impact that you have. So yeah. Another thing is time. So typical scenario that I will have will be, love the idea, I want to keep going, let's do it. By the way, I want to get it done in 2 months. In that case, I am very pragmatic. I have, I know other people who will be like, okay, let's make it happen. Let's try and do it. I'd rather, and this goes for me, other people can think in a different way, but I'd rather advise someone to skip that season and work on the next one so that there is more time. And I will push for that, and I will say no in terms of my my project, or let's say if they want to work with me and they give me a 2 months time to do even a capsule collection, I will say absolutely not, because it does compromise the quality and the outcome of the project 100%. But I know people who try and make it happen. In my experience and what I've seen happen is that it's usually a recipe for the disaster. When you know something takes 6 months to do, why on earth would you agree to get it done in 2 months when nothing of that process is changed, when you're working with the same amount of pieces that you're used to working with, when the cost is the same and the process is the same, and it takes you usually 6 months? What will change that will make that successful in 2? The answer is nothing, and it won't be successful. It will be a disaster. So I'm very pragmatic when it comes to that. I'm very honest and cutthroat, and I will decline respectfully, but yeah, keep that 6 month around that 6 month timeline in mind. It is usually what it takes for you to, especially working with new manufacturers. I can't stress that enough. So new manufacturers, you have to get to know them. You have to do trial pieces. You have to see, how it works with the sampling of your product. Maybe you've seen stuff they've done before, but now they're doing something that has been born in your imagination. So it's something done from scratch. You need to allow them to work with time. You need to schedule in margins of time for delivery delays, for production delays even. So this is important. These margins cannot be cut. They're not secondary in terms of importance, how can I say, in terms of priority. So you need to keep and calculate those in, because missing a market deadline, that is worst case scenario, in my opinion, as a brand. So, let's not do that. Let's rather skip a season. I know for some brands and for someone that is not an option, but in that case, I'd rather be honest and transparent and say, listen, not this time. Let's work on the next thing and keep going with what you're doing and do this season, and then we can talk again in a couple of weeks, rather than accepting something that I know will not work. So 6 months time, keep that in mind. If you're doing it for the first time, if you're already a designer, you know what I'm talking about, even if you're asking me to do stuff quicker. I'm joking. I'm not mean, but I will be honest. I think in those, especially in the production world and manufacturing world, you need to put all the cards on the table and be very transparent and allow the person to then make the best decision. But if you're a first time, designer or whatever, and you want to, start with your first collection, keep in mind to at least give it 6 months. But for my opinion, if it is the first time, give it even a year. I know it sounds like a long ass time, but trust me, it's better to do things right, and that you're proud of the product that you're creating, rather than rush into things and then, not like it or be disappointed, especially if it's your first time, because a hit like that, oh my gosh, it hurts. Trust me, it does hurt. Another thing, I think, let's talk about more like positive stuff. Storytelling. I think this topic might be a bit surprising, because I'm talking about a lot of technical stuff and, practical stuff. And the storytelling, I guess, I don't know if it fits into those categories, but I will tell you one thing. Usually, especially when it's the first time, when someone's doing their collection here in Italy for the first time, it will be very, okay, let's rush into the meetings, let's check this, and, next step, and let's keep going. It's a very busy or a very tight schedule that needs to be very efficient. Usually it's people who are, maybe just traveling to Milan or wherever, and, checking all of these things and then leaving and going back to, their offices or whatever. And there is not much time left to document the process. And I know it might sound silly, but trust me, those videos of behind the scenes, those images of, a tailor cutting a dress or a pattern being adjusted, that is gold when you are producing in Italy. The Made in Italy label carries so much weight. I don't even need to explain to you why, or maybe I should. Maybe I should create a video about it. But let's just say it's a given that we all know the weight and the value of a Made in Italy label, right? The fact that you're, already working in that environment, you're working with Italian tailors, pattern makers, suppliers, all of that. This is something that your clients will appreciate so much. And the fact that you take the time to document that, or to even gather, that content and that information for later use, or you might even, which I think is the best thing, document it while you're going or shortly after, the collection is finished. But I think that, I don't know, sometimes in the hustle of it all, and I've done that so many times, I've been in amazing moments and situations and circumstances, and I was just present, and I didn't, gather any content from that circumstance, that situation. And then I was so frustrated after that I didn't have the means to kind of show that. And it's good to be present. Sometimes you need to just focus. You cannot just pull a phone and start taking pictures in the middle of a meeting. I get that, but try and just, give it a little bit of your attention and try and, gather a bit of that content, because that will be worth so much when you're telling your story, because you might as well, right? You're doing a product made in Italy. So show the value of that, show what it looks like to have that attention to detail, to, you know, work with artisans who have, you know, had their profession passed down to them by their father, that had it passed by their grandfather. So stuff that has been going on for generations. This is a story worth telling. So yeah, I always encourage my clients to take a picture, to take a video, to, you know, document that, because it is important. And last but not least, and I wanted to keep this a bit shorter, but it is to plan ahead. So especially now, this is for the first timers. I know that sometimes we plan towards the first collection and then we're like, okay, and I say we because I have done that as well. I've had experiences of launching a collection by myself and self-funded, well, with my family that were my investors. I was younger back then and I didn't have that experience that I have now. And it was like, okay, let's just plan until the launch and then see what happens. Or let's just plan until the sales of that collection and see what happens. And then we plan the new one after that. If you're serious about creating a brand, about, you know, giving it the continuity that is necessary, then please plan ahead. So that means, what does that mean, Rebecca, in like concrete words? That means that when you finish a design process and you start going into the production process of your samples, so sampling stage, don't just, as the designer or the CEO of your brand, focus on the sampling stage. When you finish the design stage, that means that you start the next one. That means that you are working on your next collection creatively. And you have to do that while working on the sampling process for that first collection. So overlapping of stages. And I know it is really, really hard to do that by yourself, especially if, you know, if it's your first time, you don't have your team yet. You know, a first time can look different for everyone. It can look like you have it all figured out, you have a team, you can dedicate designers into working on next collections and seasons. But sometimes your first time looks like you're a one-man army or a one-woman army and you have to do it all by yourself. So I know it's tough, but I'm just trying to give advice as to, you know, based on experience and based on moments that, you know, trials and errors that I've kind of felt on my own skin, I guess, on my own experience. And just advising you to overlap these stages and not forget about the next step, even if that current one maybe isn't going the way that you want to. Just give it continuity. And yeah, I think that's one thing that makes also the unpredictable things, for example, I don't know, delays or whatever, it gives you that mindset of, okay, wait, let's fix this because I got something else coming in a couple of weeks. You know, like, just keep thinking ahead. It's a way, I guess, also it's a cheat code, I guess, to keep pushing you to be very efficient in your time right now, in your decisions right now, because you're already thinking and you're already working and structuring the next two steps. So yeah, I hope this video helps. I think I tried to think of stuff that people always ask me that they're very curious about and just wanted to share that. But I'm definitely going to make videos that, you know, go in depth more about certain topics. And yeah, and besides that, I don't want this to be like a school or something. So I want to show a bit of the practical sides as well. I want to take you along in backstage moments and preparations and, I don't know, a day in the life and whatever. So yeah, I'm excited and I hope you liked it. See you next time.